you no doubt know the story, but I want you to get the sense. 100 years ago, 1915, Arthur Allen, who had finished his PhD several years before, was hired as a professor at Cornell. And he was hired in the Department of Entomology. It's bugs. But he's a bird guy. And so the chairman of the department suggested that he put a sign on his door called Laboratory of Ornithology. So in 1915, Arthur Allen, the young, wet-behind-the-ears professor, coined the term Laboratory of Ornithology, and he held that term all the way through his career. Retired in the mid-50s, about the same time that he induced a local donor to buy sapsucker wood to build the building, many of you might remember, that was right over there, the original observatory of the lab. That was his lair for the rest of his life. He died in the 1960s. That building maintained the Laboratory of Ornithology tradition of science and engagement of students through the 1970s. In the 1980s, my predecessor, Charlie Walcott, was hired, and Charlie really began what I call the resurgence of the modern Cornell Lab of Ornithology, bringing science kind of back up into the forefront. Also, converting a journal into the quarterly magazine that you all received, The Living Bird, that beautiful color magazine that we continue to be very proud to produce. In the 1980s and especially the 1990s, we began to really focus on engagement of citizens. That is, the nascent idea of citizen science began right here at the Cornell Lab of Ornithology in the early 1990s. I got here in 1995. By that point, the program was continuing to grow. Citizen science was really becoming a real deal. The internet was invented for us. But we began taking advantage. We were, in fact, in the world, one of the very first institutions that began doing two-way communication. That is, receiving information from you, not just broadcasting information out. And to this day, we take that part of our heritage and our mission extremely seriously. So we now have 180 plus full-time people working here. We are a unit of the College of Ag and Life Sciences at Cornell. We are a Cornell unit, as all of you I think know. We're a science, research, and training shop on the one hand, a sort of traditional university research and training enterprise. But at the same time, we take very seriously, again, as all of you know, the communication side of our life, of our mission. And so science and training on the one hand, communications on another, all wrapped in the idea that we're trying to use birds and other charismatic organisms like whales and elephants to encourage the public of the world to appreciate nature and conserve natural systems around the world. We've never been bigger, nor stronger, nor more diverse than we are today. So it's a great privilege to pronounce on this 100th anniversary of Arthur Allen's being hired, that the place that he started in a humble lab in McGraw Hall on campus has turned in genuinely to the world's best known and most effective center for studying and appreciating and conserving birds worldwide. We have partners literally all over the world right now. Projects like eBird, which are garnering hundreds of millions of observations now from every single country in the world, literally changing how people view bird distributions and bird migrations and so on. So it's a very, very exciting moment to be at the Lab of Ornithology. And it's a very huge pleasure to thank all of you for being supporters and friends of this place, for coming by here regularly, and for allowing us, through your generosity, from time to time, to keep doing this work. It's an amazing spot, and we have, as I hope you've met as you walked around the area tonight, some of the truly great, inspirational, capable staff. Now, the other thing that we're here to celebrate tonight is this really wonderful connection that's always been true between ornithology, ornithologists and artists, between the science of studying birds and the art of depicting birds and engaging ourselves in the aesthetics that birds supply. And as this building went up, and literally during our first few days of walking through the completed building, there's no question that these walls, and especially that one, because we walk by there every day, these walls were screaming at us to become a mural. And it took a while, but we landed on an idea. And before I talk about that idea, I want to come back to that idea that I've mentioned before, namely that birds and art have always been closely engaged. The walls of this place have always had lots of paintings. If you go behind the scenes throughout the building, you see bird paintings of every genre and every age. And sculpture is also a part of that exercise. And so I want to introduce, because he's here tonight, and because we just, through the courtesy of the local Thaler family, the Thaler Foundation, we were able to purchase and allow this to be permanently here, the spectacular passenger pigeon sculpture that you saw outside the door as you walked in. And the sculptor is here, and I'm looking for Todd McGrain. Todd, take a bow. Todd, studio is still in Sheldrake.
It's not any longer. I'm in New York now.
He's a pure New York City guy now. We met him here when he was still a professor at Cornell in the art and architecture department. He's now, I guess, full-time in New York. But Todd, among his masterpieces, is this project called The Lost Bird. And if you have not seen The Lost Bird Project, Google it and take a look, and I'm sure you can watch the video, the beautiful story of The Lost Bird Project. 5 of the iconic birds that are no longer with us, sculpted in massive scale. We are blessed to have Todd's passenger pigeon out there gazing skyward, up at the sky that used to see 1 billion passenger pigeons fly overhead twice a year. So Todd, fantastic that we now permanently have a piece of your work. The other piece that we're here to celebrate tonight is this monumental scale mural by this remarkable artist, Jane Kim. Jane, as I talk about you, why don't you come up? We are blessed here at the lab to have an art internship program sponsored by the Bartels family. This brings artists at the early parts of their career to the lab, so we almost always have 1, sometimes 2 young artists here practicing scientific illustration, learning about birds from us, and in turn doing remarkable projects for us in a wide variety of venues, whether they be print or online or other places. 4 years ago?
4 years.
4 years ago. Jane was here having finished her time at the Rhode Island School of Design and applied and got into this internship program. We noticed her work was very good. Then one day we learned that she'd won a contest, designing a conceptual design contest for outdoor murals. The project was this contest sponsored by National Geographic Society. And Jane's concept, which won, was the idea of painting big-scale murals of migrating wildlife. And if you ever get to California and drive up and down the, I-5? 395 corridor, you'll see some of Jane's work out there in real scale. But we saw this word mural on this winning contest. So I'll never forget the day. I hope Jane won't either. When I asked her to come out, we stood up there and I said, look at this drab army green wall that was up here before, and said, what about a mural that depicts the evolution of birds? And
I said, are you kidding me? Yes, I would absolutely love to do that.
And I said, are you sure? Because this is like a big wall.
Bring it on. So I think that was like the fastest concept design that I've ever produced week.
It was right off the
It was
bat.
like right off the bat. I just got John a design and kind of spiraled from there. It was cool.
Yeah, it was Jane's idea to put the continents of the world up here. Jane's idea to put a big diversity of birds up here. I don't think originally it had been Jane's idea to paint every single bird.
No.
But one thing led to another, and we designed this idea really together, which was the idea that we depict in color a single representative from every living bird family. So that's what you see here. And by the way, at the very end, I'm going to say this again, but I'll just say right now, this mural, as you'll see when you do it, is really designed to be looked at from up there. So I want to make sure everybody gets a chance to do that. So every living bird family is represented now in color on this map of the world, including in sad gray tones the families of birds that we should be seeing today, except that humans wiped them out when we arrived in their places. And so you see on Madagascar, that monster, only 700 years ago, the last of the elephant birds disappeared. In New Zealand, right there over your head, just down there, you can see this moa, this huge thing almost as big as the elephant bird. 27 species of moas disappeared when the islands were first colonized by humans. And so you see the families that are gone, but in color you see the families that we still have, and you get to see them in full size, exact size. So you see them in comparison with one another, and you see them exactly where they live. It's an absolutely stunning project. And it was going to be only 230 species until Irby Lovett got involved. and several others who have put together very recently a new book on the birds of the world, bird families of the world. And it turns out now modern DNA work suggests 243 families. So the project got bigger even as Jane was beginning to work on it.
I think it was week 2 when I got here. It said, so, just wanted to give you a heads up that there are 13 new families that will be added to the mural. I said, okay.
And I call it bait and switch. So behind this to the left are the beginning up there with the 375 million year old Tiktaalik, which is one of the original pre-tetrapod fish that gave rise to the four-limbed creatures like reptiles and amphibians. That's the big fish that you see up there. So we love the idea that when you walk into the laboratory of ornithology and turn the corner, the first thing you see is a fish. And hopefully you and everybody behind you for generations will say, huh? And begin to think about the fact that these spectacular living reptiles came from the lineage that gave rise to the dinosaurs. And by the way, there's one non-bird here. Have you all seen it yet? Make sure to get a look at it. It's right behind the door here. We paid homage to the fact that birds have one living group of relatives, reptilian relatives. Birds and crocodiles are each other's closest relatives. And so we had to keep the representative of the whole lineage alive here, and so Jane has planned and painted a magnificent black kingdom here. So take a look at that. You'll see birds of the preceding several million years here, some really remarkable ones, including the bird that had the largest wingspan of any bird in history, this big Pelagornis on the Pacific Ocean. And of course, you'll see representatives of the dinosaur and equivalent dinosaurs here. So Jane, which is one of your favorite?
Oh, that is a question I get asked often. And I think there are moments in every single bird that I really enjoy, but the ostrich remains maybe one of my favorite birds that I've painted on the wall. Also mostly because it kind of gave me the most trouble, but I feel like we battled it out and then we sort of became friends. So he also took me the longest to paint. It was 7 days. And I think the hornbill still remains one of my favorites as well. And that was the exact opposite experience where I was painting, I was like, oh, this is so easy, like I just savor this because this never happened. So he just sort of fell out of my brush, whereas the ostrich did not. So I think those two remain two favorite birds in the fall.
I've got one favorite that I want to ask about and let you hear Jane talk about it, because this is the only place in the world, I believe, where you can stand literally eye to eye and see what a truly life-size wandering albatross looks like with its wings wide open. How in the heck do you do a 10.5-foot wingspan albatross?
See, now this is now where I get to thank my scientific advisors, and especially Jesse Berry, who is here tonight.
Jesse,
I'm sure everyone knows you here already, but that was one of the ones where I actually sketched it live. I blow them up, scan them at high res, and blow them up to the size they need to be. But what happens then is that all your mistakes also blow up with it. So when I kept blowing up this albatross time after time, it just wasn't looking right. And so we spent many afternoons sort of pulling out the one wandering albatross that they have in their collection. I think it's like from the 1800s. It's really old and really big. But we worked it out together, and we carefully sort of went through the proportions and how the feathers lay out. And really, honestly, I couldn't have depicted these birds without her help in advising me on what to pay attention to. So I'm really grateful. So that particular bird was more daunting on the front end than on the wall, because once I got to the wall, it felt more realized than any other bird did. So it went fast. That was 3 days.
That was 3 days.
3 days.
Piece of cake.
Yeah.
One thing I want to mention, we can look forward to, is that this project is not just going to be the mural here at the lab. We've already taken huge steps towards documenting in very high resolution detail every square inch of this mural through a series of 400 different pictures, which are being digitally stitched together right now and turned into what will become a very, very fun, beautiful, interactive website in which you can explore the entire mural, every inch of the mural. You can zoom in, and I can tell you already, having looked at it, you'll be able to zoom in and see Jane's brush strokes. As she put it the other day, you can zoom in close enough to see that there's a little yellow on the lower mandible of the cassowary. You'll see there live maps, eBird maps of where these birds exist, their current ranges today, and read things about those birds and listen to their sounds. And so the entire project will become a full interactive. And this is thanks to our unbelievably talented communications and education groups. And I want to just call out particularly Milko Chu, who's right here. He's doing a lot of the work in the writing. Also Doug Atkinson back there, our chief editorial man, and the entire team all putting together for this project that will probably be another year before it's completely done. But keep your eyes on the websites for that. One more thing I want to say about this mural, and I want to let you explore it for yourself. But this mural is in part a product of a huge community support. We've had literally many dozens of people who've supported this project, from donations tiny to very significant. It is dedicated to our recent past chairman of the board, Rusty Rose, and his wife Dee Dee, who've been extremely generous and important in our evolution over the last 2 decades. And the fun feature of the fundraising enterprise we did is that we allowed people to actually bid on various birds and sponsor these birds, and everybody, and you know who you are in the audience, who's participated in that, will be acknowledged in a sign at some point when this whole project is done. And the premier level donors have the privilege of putting their name or one of their loved ones' names into the bird. So one of the projects still to go for Jane will be for about 25 or 30. 30 of these species were bid at the premier level such that somebody's name is going to be stitched into the feathers in large enough print to be able to read through binoculars.
And on the interactive.
And on the interactive. And also, of course, acknowledged in our... And there are several of you who've done this tonight, and you know who you are, but I think I do want to single out one individual, namely one family, that did bid at the premier level, and for the purpose of making sure that Nancy Troutman's name gets to go into the secretary bird. So the Troutman family, I want to just tip our hats particularly. Nancy, you've always wanted to be a secretary. That'll be fun to see where Jane decides to scrawl your name. I want to let you go back to having a glass of wine and some more of the food. Please enjoy it. Please eat it up. That's what it's for. But I particularly want to make sure that you get a chance to see this mural as it's getting near completion. Jane, we have 6 more weeks.
Yes.
6 more weeks till Christmas. And please take a second to come up there. You can take the elevator. It's just the second floor. We did actually arrange it so that you can slip by here and walk up the stairs and get by there too. And you'll actually, on your way by, you'll see the place where Jane is actually working right now. You'll see the roadhead, so to speak, of the project. So once again, I want to thank every one of you for coming tonight, for enjoying the 100th anniversary of the place, for celebrating the near completion of this epic mural. Keep track of it on the web and enjoy the rest of your evening. It's fantastic to see you all here. And Jane has promised to be spending a little time up there in case you want to come up and actually talk with her directly about any one of these birds. So, thank you all.